Hey, good afternoon. It's Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing, joining you back again for another slice of social media pie. And guess what, guys? I have a very special guest with me here today, Kenneth Lang. And Kenneth, we're going to be talking about being an introvert and being active on LinkedIn. But first of all, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really, really well. It's a gorgeous day in New Jersey, a little bit hot, but that's what you expect this time of year. So thank you for having me here.
Well, no, it's a pleasure being able to talk to you. And I feel like we know each other, right? And you're one of those people we've had a lot of interactions online on LinkedIn. I think we had a phone conversation a while back too, but you're just one of those people, we interact with each other's posts, you comment on things. And you had actually reached out to me at one point and said, hey, if you're ever looking for guests on LinkedIn Live, let me know. And I said, sure. And I reached out to you and I said, what do you want to talk about? And Kenneth, you guys get this. Kenneth said, I want to talk about being an introvert, how LinkedIn levels the playing field for those who have trouble networking. And I was like, wait, you're not an introvert. You're an extrovert. I've seen you online, Kenneth. You're not an introvert, right?
No, I am an introvert, especially when it comes down to networking. I'm that person that's the wallflower when you go. I hated to really go to things. Yeah, it's true. But when I went online with LinkedIn, I found the ability to use my voice and think about what I'm going to say. And the more I did, the better I got. And what I found is there's so many people out there that are like me.
Yeah.
My family knows I'm an introvert, and they kind of look at me and say, Who is this kid?
Who is this person online? Well, before we jump into that conversation, guys, I just want to say welcome to all of you who are watching, whether you're watching us on Facebook Live or you're watching us on LinkedIn Live. Maybe you're watching this in the playback later on in the day. At any rate, please leave a comment below and let us know that you're watching us. We can't see you, but as soon as you leave a comment, we can actually start to pop your comments up on screen and I can welcome you. So for example, Beth Granger. Hey, Beth. How are you? Now, Beth is in your part of town. Like, I think she's in Long Island, New York, right? Yeah. How far is that? Is that nearby where you're at in Jersey, or how far are you guys away from each other?
About 40, 45 miles, maybe 2 hours driving, though. It's not distance, it's time to get there.
It's time. And I have a sister-in-law who lives on Long Island, and she always calculates things and how long is the train ride? Is it the train ride to the city or train ride to the other side of the island or whatnot. But yeah, when you guys leave comments, then we can drop your comments and we can kind of give shout outs to folks that are watching us today. And I can pull these on screen, whether you're watching on Facebook. And Lynn, I'm a fan of yours too. I love Lynn Williams. She does a great job. She does a great job seeker group. But we can bring your comments on screen. And if you guys have questions for Kenneth about being an introvert, or if you have tips, things that you'd like to bring into the conversation, drop us a comment. And I always like to kind of start with, where in the world are you watching from? And where in the house are you watching from? Because that's where we're all working these days, is in our office. And you might be in the kitchen, you might be in the backyard, you might be in the basement. I'm in my home office. Kenneth, it looks like, are you in a home office there too?
I certainly am, yes.
Yeah, very good. So drop your comments below and I'll continue to navigate through your comments as we're getting the conversation started. So Kenneth, before we jump into the topic of being an introvert and using LinkedIn, why don't you take a few minutes, tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do for work, and then we'll jump into that conversation.
Sure. For many, many years, I was a developer, and that was something which I just didn't feel comfortable with anymore. So I did a pivot. 2008, 2009. And then I needed another pivot because I used LinkedIn back then for job search, and I saw how amazing a tool it was. But the more I did it, the more I realized there was so much untapped potential there. So that led to me doing LinkedIn training and doing presentations, because when I do these presentations, it's from a job seeker perspective. And if you've gone down that road, it makes you much more empathetic to understanding the process. So I love to pay it forward and give back. I do a lot of networking events. And this is just another way for me to pay it forward, too, to get to a much larger audience. And Brenda, again, thank you very much for having me.
No, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And some of you might be watching going, wait a minute, Brenda, it sounds like Kenneth does some things that are similar to you. Why would you bring a competitor, if you will, on the show with you? And I'm a big believer in the whole concept of co-opetition. It's a phrase I learned from my friend, Terry Bean. I'm not sure if Terry's watching. If you are, hello. He learned it from someone else, so he'll credit the original author there. But co-opetition, where instead of looking people as competitors and kind of shielding yourself from them, I actually seek out people who do things similar to me, and I try to connect with them rather, so we can learn from each other. And that's part of the reason I put together this LinkedIn Rockstar list. And spoiler alert, guys, Kenneth is on track. As soon as he reaches his 6,000 followers, he's going to be added to my list. But I surround myself with people who do similar things because we learn from each other. And, Kenneth, I think you and we've even like shared some resources back and forth, observations on the platform as well.
LinkedIn is all about collaboration. I'm always learning, we're all learning, and we look at this as one whole community. And there's no reason not to be part of it. I look at competition, or in this case, collaboration, as a benefit to all of us. I mean, we're all learning from each other, and that just helps the greater good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, great. So we're going to have a great conversation. I see there's another introvert watching from Metro Detroit, and this person is so much of an introvert. Look at this. We can't even see their face. Kenneth. Yeah. That's actually a side effect of something in the privacy and settings. Have you experienced that before, Kenneth? Have you seen that happening?
I have.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges that introverts have is even putting the picture out there sometimes because they're afraid of how they look. They're afraid of how they come across, but you are who you are. So you might as well own it.
Yeah, there you go. So let's jump into the conversation. And for those who maybe have just started to join us right now, they're like, what are these people talking about here today? We're talking about being an introvert. And Kenneth, I'm an introvert too. And I feel like, no, it's like what does that mean? It's not a character flaw, right? It's a personality description. And for me, once I'm done doing a presentation or a LinkedIn Live, my energy is zapped, and I'm going to recharge by being in a quiet place with no noise and just being by myself. And extroverts get their energy in other ways. So let's talk about your story of being an introvert and how LinkedIn has helped you.
Well, I was an introvert and still am many times. I'm not a small talk person. I'm not someone who can really start a conversation with someone. Someone will come up to me back in the day with a handshake, and I'm like, what am I going to say? And so when I went to events, even with an elevator pitch, it's like, what do I say? So then I used LinkedIn as an opportunity to try to start conversations. And I just connected with people who I met. I talked about, the personalizing the connection request, and it just got easier. And I always say, as an introvert, the analogy I always make is you dip your toe in the water's cold, then you put your ankle in, it's cold, but you're getting better. Then you put your whole body in, you just jump right in. There's nothing to fear about it, and I think the more you do it, the better you get. And I think that's what I would have one of the takeaways from this. You keep trying it. No one's going to scold you if you're doing anything wrong. You're not going to be put in the corner. I know there's a LinkedIn jail, but that's a different discussion.
But is there really a LinkedIn jail? Sometimes I have a little thing on my profile that says I get people out of LinkedIn jail, and people are like, is that a place? And I'm like, well, not really, but Kenneth, you were in the pre-show, we were talking about, you've been in LinkedIn jail before. I have. The first time I sent out a bunch of connections to no one. I just sent that to everyone. LinkedIn said, you're doing way too much. And then there was a thing on LinkedIn called SWAM, which was site-wide automated moderation, which was LinkedIn's way of saying you're trying to sell too much, you're trying to do too much. But the thing was, back then, we didn't know why we were in LinkedIn jail. They just put it there. They just locked you. It was kind of like when you're a kid and your parent grounds you and you're like, what'd I do? What did I do wrong, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's interesting because you talk about, they put you in LinkedIn jail for selling too much. I mean, isn't that what this platform is for? It's for business professionals networking and selling in some aspects.
There was so much spam that was going out there. You had people blasting the same thing in 30 groups, 35 groups, and they did a total 180. They said, we're going to get rid of all the selling instead of trying to figure out the best way to moderate it. And they let too much go to individuals. But that's then. LinkedIn is a much better place now, I think. We all kind of feel a little differently about it. We don't all agree with the changes. Right. We know we can't change the changes. And I always say, LinkedIn, it's their bat and ball, and I'm just a player. Yeah, it's their game, it's their field, if you will. I agree with you. We just gotta figure out how to work within the rules and work within the platform. And I see that you is somebody who really does this well. You do a lot of interaction with folks. You're posting regularly. You have good content out there, and it sounds like you've got a great background that you're drawing from that's helping to lend you into that. Yeah, definitely. I think some of the times I post, it's more specific based on something that I brought up in a meeting, but sometimes I love using LinkedIn polls sometimes as a way to engage. You ask a question, you put the comments in, and from an introvert perspective, if you have the ability to create a poll, just create a poll, ask the questions, and then that becomes your first post, the results of the poll. So any tips there on what types of things you should ask in a poll based on what you've been doing so far? I would ask based on your background as to what makes sense. one of the poll questions now is, what's the hardest thing to do as a job seeker? Is it network? Is it to put a resume together? Is it to have the right attitude? And those are the things, again, you can do from your own perspective. If you've got a marketing background, you can ask a marketing question. You could ask a personal question. It's really just about your brand. My brand is I'm an introvert, even though I don't sound like that, but that's my brand.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get introverts out to become extroverted, and I'm happy to say that's happening.
So in your mind, Kenneth, what is an introvert, and what defines an introvert, and what separates that person from an extrovert?
Well, an introvert is someone that's going to think a long time about doing something. Is it the right thing to do? What if it doesn't work? What if I don't get any response? And they're afraid to take the first step. And that's probably related to networking. These days, especially with Zoom, there's no reason not to be networking. And I actually had a conversation with someone yesterday who said, I just don't feel comfortable. I said, then just be a fly on the wall and listen to the event and just think about it and then follow up after. Just because you're there doesn't mean you actually have to be part of it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. Same with posting on LinkedIn or anything else.
Yeah, and I'm curious, I'm going to throw this question out right now for folks, of the people that are watching. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Comment below and tell us which would you categorize yourself as. And sometimes you might be surprised when you see people's answer to this question. Even like when you reached out and you said, I want to talk about being an introvert, and I'm like, you're not an introvert. We can be a little bit different personality-wise on social media because we're hiding behind the screen, right? We don't have the groups of people we're talking to in person.
The other thing is, if you realized how much time it took me to kind of get myself ready to do this today, and I'm all the energy, and then just like you, as soon as this is over, going to totally decompress for a little while, and I'm going to say, oh my God, I pulled it off. And that may not seem like me, but that's how I feel, and I think that's how a lot of people feel.
Yeah.
You get the adrenaline going, and then there's that down.
Yeah, and I see comments are starting to come in. There's about a 30-second delay here too, guys. So I like to leave the question out there for a little bit, wait for you guys to reply, but I'm going to kind of roll through the comments that are coming in here. We've got introverts, we've got extroverts. I find usually when we ask the question of folks on LinkedIn, we actually find more people that are introverts that are watching the video than extroverts, especially on the topic. And I feel like sometimes, I don't know about you, Kenneth, but when I do presentations and I tell people in my presentation, I tell them about myself, I love coffee, pie, chocolate, love my family, love my job. I'm an introvert. And I say that because there's some of you that are going, you're not an introvert, you're speaking in front of the room. And I'm like, well, yeah, I am. I just had to work on public speaking. I joined Toastmasters. I don't know if anybody's watching is familiar with Toastmasters. Have you heard of Toastmasters as a group, Kenneth?
Yep, certainly have. And that's actually one of the best things to do if you're an introvert is go to Toastmasters, sit down and practice. One thing I would probably suggest right off the bat when people do their elevator pitches, think about who your audience is. If it's someone who really doesn't know what you're doing, don't speak the language of what you do. Talk about it in more general terms. It's going to throw people.
Yeah.
I can tell you my background with all the software and everything else, and you're going to be like, okay. So just think about it from a general way, and I think that's very helpful when you meet people in general.
Yeah, good point. We've got so many good comments that are coming in right now here. Kenneth. And so let's give folks some networking tips. You're an introvert.
Sure.
You're looking to build your network on LinkedIn. Maybe you're a job seeker. Maybe you're just looking to build your presence on LinkedIn, but you're an introvert. So how do you get the process started? What do you do?
First thing you do is you go through your profile. There are certain sections you need to get 100% on there. You want to make sure your about section has a lot of information about you. Think of LinkedIn as a marketing tool. It's not your resume. You can take what's on your resume and take it to another level. And it's also more about what you want to do. It may not be what you're doing now. So you want to position yourself as to what I want to do in the future. And there's so many different ways to do it, whether it's the title section, whether it's putting content in. But other than that, the one thing I would absolutely suggest is if you don't know what to do, ask someone.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do, ask someone. And there are so many people here, including people in this call, who will do anything because we're all a community.
Yeah.
We all have stuff to share. So you don't try to do it alone.
Yeah. So do you reach out to people and ask them for advice, Kenneth? Or do
Absolutely.
I feel like you've got it all down pat. You know it all, right?
No, I don't. I mean, that's why I rely on other people. Sometimes it's just checking to see if it makes sense. Sometimes it's an insecurity, to be honest. I'm not sure that what I'm doing is right. I'm an insecure person by nature. So I just sometimes need to have that double check or or that attaboy. I think we all kind of need an attaboy every once in a while. And I'm happy to do that for people too. the people I've worked with, because I was in transition, I definitely understand it. And it's okay to be an extrovert with your family and friends. It's not the same thing when you're networking. And I even said today, this is not, forget the word networking. It's having a conversation. Don't get so tied up by the word, because it means too many different things.
Networking sounds very scary. You know,
it does.
Having a conversation, that's not so scary. I mean, that's something we can do.
That's what we're doing now. We're actually doing that right now.
Yeah, it is. It's just a conversation. And, you know, the interesting thing, Kenneth, I found too, is that when you, as an introvert, meet another introvert, don't you feel like automatically things just click? You know, sometimes
we just know, you know, there's a couple of people who are in my network who are very introverted, but when we two introverts together, we become a little more extroverted because we feel more comfortable. We know a little bit about each other, but it's just so helpful. I love to help people, and I do, because I think it's so important to feel that you're not alone. And any mistakes people are making, believe me, I've probably made them before.
Yeah, there you go. And we all, I think we learn from each other. And I love how you talked about too, the energy. I think it builds when you put two introverts together. I don't know about you, like when I used to be at networking events back in the pre-COVID days, and I would walk in a room, it seemed like, and I still get like a lot of anxiety. Walk in a room, is like everybody knows everybody. I feel like people are in conversations and everybody's kind of paired off or in small groups, and it's a bit intimidating. And for me, I go for the coffee. You know, I go to the coffee or the water bottle station and find somebody who looks like me, who's not talking, and I'm like, wow, this coffee is really good, and I just start a conversation, right? And and it's a little different on LinkedIn. So how do you insert yourself into conversations on LinkedIn as an introvert?
I think for me, the first thing, and this is a general thing, are you a morning person or an afternoon or an evening person? Because I think that definitely helps. I'm a morning person, know what you are. I'm a morning person. I'm getting up every day, 7:30. And you still want to develop a routine, even if you're in transition. What are you going to do every day? My thing is I do some posting for a little while. If you're going to be on LinkedIn or something like that, have a strategy that what you can do every day is a little different. Don't just come here as a job board. I'm going to search, and connect. Right. Figure out what you want to do with some really actionable things. And it could be 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But I always suggest people engage. Engage with others if nothing else. Just engage with them. Use that as the basis to start a conversation.
What are some do's and don'ts for engagement on LinkedIn?
Well, one of the don'ts I feel is that you don't want to come across badly. I mean, that's not to say you can always disagree with someone, but you don't want to be snarky. You don't want to be salesy. I can't tell you how many times I get requests from people that in the connection request, they're pitching me, and then right afterwards they're pitching me, and we know it's automated because it's the same thing again and again. Just be genuine. I mean, we all are genuine in our nature, and you don't have to put any illusions out there. You know, you are who you are, and you want to feel secure in that. And I definitely think that's the first step, is be comfortable in who you are. I mean, for a long time, I don't think I totally was. And then one day I said, you know, this is who I am. Yeah. Can't change it. Same with anyone else here. Just be comfortable in your own skin.
I feel like the older we get too, I feel like I remember I was a teen and I did not have any confidence in myself, no self-confidence at all. And the older I get, the less I care about what other people think, and the more comfortable I am in my own skin. And I don't know if that's common or if that's an introvert trait as well. You know, the older we get, the more comfortable we get. But, you know, I feel like it's a little bit easier. And then being behind the screen is also a little bit easier because you can be anyone. And then you can kind of see people's reactions, and then you can kind of tailor and change your content based on what those reactions are.
Well, I look at this as a conversation. No matter how many people are watching, I look at it just you and me. We're talking. And that's when you want to make any conversation as well. I think it's so important to also look at the fact that you don't want to get overwhelmed. You know, introverts, we can get very overwhelmed very quickly. We can get shy. We can get, oh my God, I got to get back to my comfort zone. You fail at some things. Not everything is going to work, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. So on that note, let's say there's some introverts watching, and they're nervous about posting, and they put out some posts and they're not getting any engagement. Should they delete the post? Should they abandon LinkedIn and go back to Facebook? Or, you know, what's your take there?
LinkedIn is going to like you or comment on your posts more the more you put them up. You want to develop a routine, whether it starts with once a week, whether it starts with 3 times a week. But if you really don't know what to post, there's a section on LinkedIn for today's news and views. You can certainly go into there and comment on a post. And if you're really stuck, just create a Google alert, get information on your certain keywords, but anything you post. I mean, one of my contacts actually posted something about how do you end a Zoom meeting? What's the etiquette? And it was based on an article, and there was a lot of great content there. So I think it's so important. You know, we're all in a different situation than we're used to. So have fun with it. I mean, there's not much we can do about it. You could ask, like, what is your top 10 tips from working from home? Or what are the struggles you've had? It can be anything and then you'll get engagement that way. I mean, hashtags and @ signs, that's important too. But I think for now, you just want to start posting and get comfortable with it from there.
So I'm going to point out on screen here, guys. It's on the right-hand side of your screen. I tried to blow it up a little bit larger. The section that Kenneth is referring to, and I'm going to highlight it with my mouse right now here. It's today's news and views. And this is kind of like the no-brainer. You know, if you're struggling with a great tip here too, Kenneth, you know, struggling with, I don't know what to post, look through the articles they have in here, and they've got this, you know, I wonder if everybody's articles, are they the same in here, or are they different based on your past activity? I don't know the answer. Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know for sure either. I will tell a funny story. One of the things I put on LinkedIn a while ago was I was all upset about the poll story going up from 50 cents to 55 cents. And LinkedIn put that into today's news and views. It was a very innocuous thing.
Wow, that's crazy. And then they've got this other section too, this special report, the road ahead, and the cool thing is you can go on here and then find one that you like, and you can click to share. That's kind of like an easy no-brainer way, right? Yeah.
And then you can also save articles too. I know you had that page up. If you see something you want to save it for later, there's the 3 dots at the top, and you can save it as something in your background. So if you see an article and you're just not exactly sure yet what to do, that's also very helpful. But all of this is about a strategy, and I know as an introvert, it sometimes can be a bit overwhelming. Trust me on that. So you start really slow. You put a post up for the first time. If it doesn't work that well, you only get 10 or 15 views. You just try again. Try again, and let us know that you're posting it. I mean, that's where you do that @ sign, and you can put a person's name. So I know that I'm in there. I certainly can comment on it. But if I don't know it's there, how can I comment on it? And it can be anyone on LinkedIn. It's not just first connections, which people don't necessarily realize. If it's a third connection, you can do it. If it's the author of the article, you could probably do it if they're there.
But what about spam @ tagging people? What are your thoughts there?
I actually don't like doing more than 3 or 4 tags. And I know one of the things you talk a little bit about, Brenda, you ask permission from people before you tag them. I've had pretty good success with tagging people, but you want to be maybe 3 to 4, but start with people that are close to you. Don't try to reach out to someone else. But the more important thing is get comfortable with the process. And even if you tag 2 or 3 of your neighbors or 2 or 3 people from a networking event, they'll know it. They'll be appreciative, and you could have a bunch of introverts. I mean, I have a hashtag Introverts United, which I just started, which is a really cool one. I mean, it's just, I did it for myself. I mean, I wasn't necessarily looking for hundreds of thousands of followers, but it's just kind of cool to do that.
Is that something you're using on LinkedIn right now? If I look up Introverts United. So, you know, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to LinkedIn to show folks how to do this. So it's all one word, Introverts United. Is that right?
Yep.
Did I get it right?
Unite, I believe. Unite.
Unite. Okay. One word without the D on it. And then I'm going to click on search and see what's happening here. So, oh, look, I saw Kenneth Lang's post pop up in here. So this is how you get to it. I'm going to put this, the link to this into our banners in here, so you guys can look this up if you wanted to. But you could just go to LinkedIn and just put the hashtag in the top. But here's the link if you wanted to get to that search results that I just popped in. And that
thing at the top of the pitches you need is a very valid one. It's all the different types of pitches you need. And it's what I was referring to before. You want to have the pitches for people who really don't know what you do. And you have to be very, very general.
That's great.
Look at this. And it's very helpful in a general way, because I know what I do. If I tried to explain it to everyone else, I would know, but they might not know, and they wouldn't know how to help me.
So how did you figure out who to tag in this post? Like, what was your criteria for those folks being tagged in here?
There are 3 of my main contacts. Christine Dykeman, who I believe is on the call, is someone who I met. She works in Monmouth County at the Workforce Development. Nancy Aronson is a total introvert, and she has that all over her all over her LinkedIn profile. Alex Coyne is a very great person here. He's the landing expert. He has all these different networking events. And I rely on them to kind of share and tag further, because I know that from a granular standpoint, they will get it out there. I want people to keep sending it to other people. And question for you, Brenda, what do you feel about people tagging other people in the comments section? Do you think that helps or doesn't make a difference? Because I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I've actually, so Kenneth, you're familiar with the LinkedIn Rockstar list that I do, and I used to do it like every week, and then I went to monthly, and I kind of split it up, and I do a couple times. But one of the, I don't want to say criticisms, one of the concerns I had from people on the list was like they're getting, when you get tagged in an original post, you get every single notification for that post comes back to you, whether somebody liked it or commented it, and if there's a list of 60 people and a bunch of comments, I mean, they're getting like, they had to shut off notifications. And what I found is I put them into the comments, and if there were 60 people in the list, I did batches of 10, you would only get notifications for that specific comment in there. So it's still a way of bringing visibility. It's not the greatest level of visibility as you have in the original post, but it's a little bit more of an etiquette technique that I have. I think there's a rule that says original comments count higher in the weighting than comments nested as a reply underneath, if you know what I mean.
There's a thing now called dwell time, which has just come out.
Yeah.
The formula that LinkedIn uses to determine, I guess, the visibility. And it's not just the liking, it's how long you stay on the post, how many comments you have. I would also say this, the algorithm for LinkedIn is impossible to figure out, and there's no way we're going to ever be able to do it. So even if you see a limited number of people that have looked at your profile, have liked your post, don't worry about it, because it's really about engaging the right people. I think most people don't ever look at their dashboard, which is a very helpful tool. It tells you how you're being searched. It tells you the keywords that people are using to search. There's just so many great things that are out there, and most people just don't know about them. It's not their fault, because there is no LinkedIn help area, really. There is no area specific that you can rely on. So it's people like you and myself and Lynn and others that we try to spread the word, because it's to everyone's benefit.
There is, just to correct that, there is a help.linkedin.com, which is kind of like a self-service.
Yeah, sort of.
It's not staffed. It's not like when you go up to the counter at the store and you say, I need help finding this. I mean, there's nobody there. They have a great directory of questions, but to try to find a person, it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I agree with you. It's good to have a network of people like you, Kenneth, and people like Beth and others out there where you can reach out and kind of ask the question. So Vincent says that today's news is personalized. So it looks like everybody may be receiving different content based on probably the content that you're engaging. And Jim said the same thing. Thanks, guys, for helping. I was kind of curious. I'm like, are we all getting the same? I didn't know the answer to that question.
It's kind of a counterintuitive also. That you'll get more help from LinkedIn if you tweet them.
Yeah.
Which I find kind of cool and not cool.
Yeah.
But it's like if you send screenshots or things there, they will get back to you.
Yeah. And I'm going to put I go to @LinkedIn Help. Is that where you're referring to as well, Kenneth?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
I'm going to put it up on screen, and it's kind of ironic. My thought on that is that I think the people that are working through the contact us on LinkedIn are kind of their lower level customer support, and they go to a database of questions, and they assign the higher level. This is just my hypothesis. I have no way of knowing this is correct. The higher level CSRs get promoted and they go to Twitter, because I don't think LinkedIn wants people complaining about LinkedIn on Twitter. They want to keep people happy because they want to send them back to LinkedIn. I don't know if that's right or not, but I tend to get a faster response and a more complete response when I go to Twitter help for LinkedIn. So.
There's a bunch of questions that we all ask and we look for the answer. I think the thing with all of us is LinkedIn is constantly changing. So even when we do presentations, the presentation next week is different than this week. Yeah. Et cetera. And it's just being comfortable with that. Yeah. And I would just say to all my introverts out there, hang in there. It does get easier over time. Fear it yourself. I actually did that as a post one time. Yeah. And the hardest part's getting started. Once you get started, the water's fine. Yeah, it's like just jumping into the deep end, and that's like the most intimidating part of it too. Is like, what do you post about? I mean, what I do is I try to find other people like you, Kenneth, where I'm like, wow, that's working really well. How could I take what Kenneth has posted and make it into something that works for my personality, for my brand, for my business needs, and kind of work it around that way.
So I think we're kind of at the point where I'm going to open this up for some questions from the audience. You know, if you guys have questions for Kenneth about LinkedIn, about being an introvert, you know, about other techniques that he's using, and I keep rolling through some of the comments. We've had such great conversation on here. I'm going to look out in a little bit and see how many views we're up on here. So Olivia is asking, how many pitches do you need? So how many different versions did you say, Kenneth, that you recommend?
I would start with the very least. You want to have one pitch for your professional groups, maybe 30 seconds and maybe 60 seconds, and then have another pitch just for someone like myself who might not know what you do and might not understand the software and the technology. Are you a problem solver in IT? Things like that, because you want people who don't know much about what you do to ask more questions, but you have to give them a reason to ask questions. You know, they're going to be turned off if they don't understand. I would say at the very least two, and maybe different components of each.
Yeah, I think too about, you know, there's the pitch I tell my family about what I do, and then there's the pitch that I tell my ideal client what I do. And that's a little bit different. I mean, when I'm talking to my dad, he's not on social media at all. He's never really been a technology person. So he's familiar with Facebook, but he's not on Facebook. So I can't even say it's kind of like Facebook, but it's professional, because that's not going to make sense. So I explain it a little bit differently to him, as opposed to if I'm sitting across the table from an ideal client and they say, what do you do? And I need to think about who they are and, you know, how I can help them. Right. So it's a little bit different there. That's a great pitch.
One thing I would suggest, just as a quick tip, if you're on a Zoom chat, put your LinkedIn URL in the chat area, save the chat, and then later on go back to it so you know, have a frame of reference to connect with people.
Yeah.
It's just a good, most people sort of do it, but not many people send the connection requests after. It's great from an introvert perspective, because you can say, I remember this person, I'm looking at the chat, I kind of think I know what I want to say. And again, it's a process. Sure.
So let me shift gears a little bit, and you just offered, no, I'm not going to leave that question on there too long. I don't want LinkedIn going, why are they complaining about us? We're trying to help the people. Question for you, Kenneth. We talked about some tips for introverts networking on LinkedIn, kind of going back to our original topic. I'm going to pull that back up on screen, how LinkedIn levels the playing field a bit for those who have trouble networking. So anything else that we haven't addressed yet, you know, how else LinkedIn helps us level the playing field? You know,
I would also suggest, as much as possible, to have a support system of people that are online. But if nothing else, have one or two job search buddies, people that you can bounce ideas off of. Your family and friends are very important, but there are some things that job search buddies can help have everyone accountable for. They can say, how come you're not doing this? Or how you're having a bad day, you're having the pity party. I'm going to get your spirits up. And I think having that, even if it's just one person, is really helpful to have that confidant.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, having kind of like a wingman or an accountability partner or something that you can bounce people off of. And there's so many people out right now they're good people looking for work. And I'm a big believer, like, we can help each other. And it's like, you know, together everyone achieves more, kind of team acronym there. Together we all can help each other. And as you're thinking about how do I help myself, you should be kind of looking behind you and saying, how can I help the person who's coming after me? I think that's a really good point.
I would also say to be empathetic as much as possible with what you do. It's kind of hard. It seems a little counterintuitive from a job seeker perspective, but just be empathetic. To show some support, and those little things will help. It's very hard at times. You got to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, believe it or not. I mean, speaking with you today, it's been a pleasure. I was stressing about it, but
you were stressed. You don't seem stressed at all. You seem very like conversational. We're going good.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Here's the thing about introvert. They can do great on interviews because they have time to prepare. They have time to think about what they're going to say. But leading up to it, am I wearing the right thing? Am I going to make it to the interview on time? That's all, you know, under your control, basically.
So you guys want to hear something funny too? I'm going to talk to the audience right now, Kenneth. So before we started the call, before I jumped on with Kenneth, you guys, I was like going back to back in meetings all day. And Kenneth and I, we originally had this scheduled at noon, and I had something else that came up, and I said, can we move to 2? And he's like, yeah, totally fine. And so I was kind of like back to back meetings, and I have some buffers built in, but like literally I finished one call at 1:35. And then I make my rounds around the house, checking in with my husband. Okay, is my son up yet? He's 15, you know, okay. My daughter, is she good? She's been off of her device long enough. Does she need to be fed? So I went around the house and did all of that. And then I'm like, I'm really hungry. Oh, that's right. I haven't eaten anything since breakfast. And I ate breakfast really early this morning. So I'm like, I got to go get something for lunch. And Kenneth, came into the room and I started setting and I had my lunch with me. And it was like 1:40 and I turned it on and Kenneth's already waiting. And I'm like, I've got pasta shoveling into my mouth at this point.
My family knows I'm like that. I'm going to get there early, even if it's 2 hours before the airport or whatever it is. It's just, but I love them to death. So.
Yeah, but it's good to be prepared. And I even, I felt like we've connected before, we've messaged. I feel very comfortable. And I'm like, Kenneth, you don't mind if I finish eating while I'm setting up to you? And he's like, go ahead. And he was, I think he's having a bottle of water too. But I think that's one thing that introverts do really well. We connect with each other. We empathize. And I think we can see, when the other person has a need. And that's something, you can do on LinkedIn as well, right? Kind of in your post, if you're saying, hey, I need some help finding networking events, or does anybody have tips on videos, or how do you best use polls? I mean, have you used that technique yourself, like putting the ask out to try to get people to reply back and help you?
Yeah, I do. And even for this time of year, it's like, it's a hot day. What are the things you're doing to keep cool? It doesn't even have to be specific to a job. We all have different things, but I love as an introvert to ask questions that are going to be engaging, because sometimes, honestly, I don't know the answer. Sometimes I like to hear what other people say. And sometimes I'm at a loss. Yeah. I mean, believe it or not, I'm at a loss for content from time to time. And sometimes you do that. And I do it just to be consistent, much as anything else. I want to build a following, obviously, but at the same time, I want to be out there for everyone else too. Because I know what it's like.
Yeah. And it can be a challenge. I mean, and everybody goes through that. You get kind of writer's block. Like, I don't know what to post next. I don't know what to do. We all go through that, but sometimes I don't know about you, Kenneth, but I kind of draw from my surroundings. If I don't know what to post today, I wait and let the universe deliver that to me. And it usually happens in the form of, I go into my messages and there's a question in there, or an email I get from somebody, or something. I get an endorsement, somebody I haven't talked about it. I don't know, something happens and I'm like, oh, that's what I could talk about today.
Exactly. And it happens a lot too. I mean, you don't want to pre-plan too much. Sometimes it's the thing you think about first thing in the morning, or the thing you just put it off to the back burner. And those are sometimes the best posts. I mean, the first post I put up about being an introvert, I just put it up because I had nothing else to say that day. And it was one of the most read posts. And I wasn't looking for engagement, but I just hit a raw nerve. And I thought, I'm onto something.
Yeah. And I'm going to pull up your profile because you recently changed something in your headline field.
I did. Thanks to you, actually.
Tell us about that. So why did you change, and what did you change in there? And I'm going to pull your profile up as you talk about
I put down the LinkedIn Introvert, and I moved it to the top because you said that it's not necessarily going to be shown on the second or third line. And then I thought about, from a mobile perspective, your profile here is not going to be the same on mobile. So you want to make sure that it's viewable there in a different way.
Yeah, so you moved it. And what I like is when Kenneth replies on posts, you usually see, I don't know if it's like the first 60 to 80 characters of the headline is what you can see. And I liked how he said, follow me for LinkedIn changes. I'm like intrigued, like I want to check out his profile and see what he's talking about on there. But let me see if I can find an example of this and how that headline carries around with you. So if I look at, this was a post that you did, and then, so here's someone replied and you replied back to them, and you can see in here, guys, where the headline, are you guys seeing this on screen? I want to make sure it's showing. So it's a little bit smaller to see. I'm going to try to make it a little bit larger, but every time Kenneth replies, his headline follows him. And you can see it says, follow me for LinkedIn changes. And before, I think you had proud introvert, after a couple of the words.
Yes.
And I said, move it up, because that's intriguing. That makes me want to click and read it in there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Awesome. Well, while we're on the subject here, while we're on your profile, and I see that we're kind of getting towards the end of the hour here, Kenneth, are you open to accepting invitation requests from people that are watching the show here today?
Absolutely. And if anyone wants to have a follow-up consultation with me, I'm happy to do that as well. My website has a lot of great information on there, kmlconsultants.com. Anytime, reach out to me for questions. I would just have this one thing. When you do the personalized connection request, or you definitely do it, put in there how we know each other, or just give us a frame of reference, because if I don't know what you're looking for, it's a little hard for me to follow up. Mention the call for sure. I just think, in general, as introverts, the more you put yourself out there, the better you're going to feel.
Yeah, That's a great point. And so many great insights for us today here on being an introvert and really rocking on LinkedIn, Kenneth. And I just want to thank you for the conversation. Any final comments as we wrap here today? Anything you're working on right now that you're promoting? Shout outs you want to give to people who might be watching or anything along those lines?
Every Tuesday from 1 to 2, I do a weekly LinkedIn Lunch and Learn.
Cool.
It's on Meetup. And it's actually very engaging because we have people in the group talk amongst themselves. We're not so much speaker driven. We want people to kind of help each other with solutions and talk about the challenges that they have. And the last thing I want to do is talk, and that's also because I'm an introvert, truthfully, but it's also because I want to hear what other people have to say. So that's my latest thing. And in the fall, I'll be doing some online classes as well. Finally taking the plunge to do that. Mm-hmm. But again, it was just great to be here today. Follow me on LinkedIn. Shout out to my family downstairs. I can't wait to hear what they have to say and all the criticism and everything.
Who's watching downstairs right now? Who is it? Is it your wife and son?
My wife, Paula, my younger son, Adam. I'm wondering if I'm wondering if my other son and daughter-in-law are watching as well. And we'll see. I mean, I see a great contingent of people from the comments, and I really am appreciative of the support, especially in these days.
Isn't it great to see like people supporting, especially when I see names like, Beth Granger. I'm going to pull her back up on screen right now. And I had the pleasure, the honor of meeting Beth when I was out in Long Island not too long ago, about a year ago, if I'm remembering back, Beth. And she's just such a sweet person and had the pleasure. But it's nice to see when we see familiar names. And that's one of the reasons whenever I see people doing a LinkedIn Live, if I have a second, I'm going to jump on. If I see Beth going live, I'm going to jump on her live real quick. And I'm going to say, hey, from Metro Detroit, because you get that little, oh, that's cool, Beth was on. It makes you feel good that people are watching. So if you guys are watching right now and you have not yet commented, I'm scolding you. You have to leave a comment before you leave here today. Whether you're watching this in live or watching in playback, just drop a comment. Let Kenneth know that he did a great job. If there was a tip that you found that was particularly helpful, that resonated with you, remind us of what that was and drop that in the comment below. And Kenneth, you mentioned the Tuesday meetup. Is it a live meetup? Is it virtual?
It's a virtual one. It's every Tuesday from 1 to 2. I will put the link up again tomorrow. An update, and it's open to anyone. I mean, and we don't even know who we're getting every week, and that's the fun part. We do have some people come. Oh, hey,
do we know this person? Is this somebody you know?
Yeah, this is my younger son's girlfriend.
Oh, Alexis, hello. Thank you for watching. And is she in? Okay, that's your son Ryan there. Yeah. And we've had some really great folks watching here. So thank you so much for watching, Kenneth. So if you have that link, if you want, I'll put it into the video show notes as well.
Sure.
To check out later too. But yeah, definitely even after we're done here, Kenneth, you can even go on the LinkedIn Live and put it in the comments there. And then share that with people. And see what's interesting, as I said, leave a comment. And did you see it took about 30 seconds, Kenneth? And now I don't know if you can see, they're starting to flood in here. Like all the comments are starting to come in. There's a little bit of a lag with StreamYard on comments coming in. So I'm going to vamp here for a few seconds as I'm reading through the comments before we wrap.
Forward, absolutely, Christine.
Yeah, so great. So love the Tuesday. And is it a 12 to 1 lunch and learn?
It's 1 to 2 every Tuesday. Okay. That's Eastern time also. In case people are from other parts of the country.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I know sometimes, especially now because everything is virtual, we have the ability to reach people from across the world. And I'm finding like I really have to do a good job of reminding people, even for these LinkedIn Live broadcasts, I have to put in Eastern Daylight Time in there. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, people that are watching, they're like, oh, I missed it because I thought it was, Pacific time or Mountain time or something on there. We're really learning the how to kind of look at the different time zones and make sure that we're being respectful of people. All right, guys. So I just want to say thank you again for watching. Before we wrap, I'm going to put two things up on the screen. First, share this video. So after you're done watching today, click to share this video with someone in your network. You can even tag, fellow introverts unite, and then tag a couple people that are in your network that are introverts as well. Please make sure that you tag Kenneth in the post when you share and tag me as well. I know I'll comment back. Kenneth, will you do the same if they comment? They tag you? All right. So we'll look at that. And then please also make sure to go to mellermarketing.com/subscribe to be added to my VIP email list, where you'll get notification of future LinkedIn Live. And I also send out information about LinkedIn strategy tips and some of my upcoming events. So Kenneth, it has been such a delight talking with you today. This was just such a thrill to have the chance to speak with you a little bit more. Thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, guys, stay safe and stay healthy. And we look forward to seeing you online again in the future. And introverts unite. We're all going to now take a nap, right, Kenneth?
Absolutely.
All right, guys, take care. Thank you.